Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on double falsehood, and today we get to hear from Julio in Act 1, Scene 2. Now Julio, as you remember, is a friend of Enrique's, who is the son to the Duke of Andalusia, and the Duke is a little bit concerned. He was talking to his son Roderick about how he's worried about Enriquez and why has he been gone so long, all that sort of thing. Enriquez has actually asked Julio to go to court for him and get some money to buy a horse. So the Duke had written a letter to Julio's father, Camillo, saying we need Julio to come to court like immediately, because the Duke wants to then sort of use Julio to spy on Enriquez or get some information about him, kind of, since he's been gone so long and he's worried. So Camillo was like, oh my God, you have to go and see the Duke. You have to leave now. I'm going to make sure that you have all of the things that you need so that when you show up at court, you have all of the things that you might need if you were at court. And Julio is a little bit torn because he's actually in love with Lenora, who is here. She's not at court. And he was going to be talking to his father and her father about marrying her. So he's like, I don't know if I should go, if I should stay. But he and Camillo decide, yes, he should go to court because the Duke is calling him. He needs to go. So Camillo has gone off to gather all of the stuff that Julio will need for his journey. And Julio has a moment on stage to himself. And he says, I do not see that fervor in the maid, which youth and love should kindle. She consents, as 'twere to feed without an appetite. Tells me she is content, and plays the coy one, like those that subtly make their words their ward, keeping address at distance. This affection is such a feigned one as will break untouched, die frosty ere it can be thawed, while mine, like to a clime beneath Hyperion's eye, burns with one constant heat. I'll straight go to her, pray her to regard my honor. But she greets me. See how her beauty doth enrich the place. Oh, add the music of thy charming tongue, sweet as the lark that wakens up the morn, and make me think it paradise indeed. I was about to seek thee, Leonora, and tried thy coldness, love. So what he's saying here is he's in love with Lenora, but she's just sort of meh about the whole thing. She says that, she goes along with it. She says that everything's fine. She gives her consent, but she's not passionate. She's not excited, whereby he is like burning with desire for her. So he's going to go and talk to her before he has to go off to court, but she shows up instead. She comes on stage and he's like, oh, look at how beautiful she is. I want to hear her talk. And he's like, oh, I was just coming to find you. And they get into a little bit of back and forth, and she's like, well, did you talk to your dad yet about marrying me? And he's like, well, I haven't yet. And she's like, come on, this is getting ridiculous. It's like, I have to woo you and your dad. Like, when are you going to talk to him? And he's like, well, I can't do it just yet. And he's hemming and hawing a little bit. And she's like, all right, this isn't working for me. And he's like, okay, well, then I guess I have to go and fulfill the Duke's request and go to court. And she's like, court? You're going to go to court? There's lots of beautiful women at court. What if you find a more beautiful woman than me? What if you suddenly fall in love with a more beautiful woman than me? So she all of a sudden is jealous that he's going to find somebody else. So she makes him swear that he'll come back to her and love her always and that sort of thing. She does that roundabout because she doesn't want to be left alone in this whole thing. And of course he's in love with her. So he's like, of course I'm going to come back. And I'm going to make sure, my friend Enriquez is here. I'm going to make sure that he is conveying my love to you while I'm gone. And she's like, you shouldn't love someone by proxy. And then her father, Don Bernard, enters. And that's as good a place to stop as any today, because we're going to get to hear from him tomorrow. He comes in and he's like, what, you're wooing her in public? Seriously? And then it goes from there. So we'll pick up with what Don Bernard has to say about this little sort of love affair that's rekindled by the possibility of him falling in love with somebody else while he's at court. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow for more. Mwah.